That's not the way Trump operates. He's looking for a loyalist. And like I said, Waltz was never really seen as that loyalist, and something happened so that Waltz needs to move out of the way. And so, in the old days, I'd be expecting a former ambassador or someone to come in there, and but the thing is,
who'll be advising the president on who to pick?
Wow. Well, that's what's interesting. In the day, you would kind of know who those close advisors were. But with Trump, he has a range of advisors, and not the people that you would think would be talking to him about national security. It could be a CEO. It could be someone at Fox News. It could be anyone who talks to the president and for some reason plants that seed that becomes that replacement. But one thing is, Waltz has never been in these big negotiations with the Russians or others. He's always been behind the scenes. So I think there was a lot of people wondering, so he's dead weight. What does he do?
Now we have been joined in our pop-up studio just over from the White House by Jim Townsend. Very, very happy to have you here back with us, Jim. Jim, of course, is a former Deputy Assistant Secretary for Defense for Europe and for NATO, a veteran of the Pentagon, at the very pinnacle of the American military machine. Jim, thank you for joining us. You came in, you looked as if you were, I don't know, how do I describe it? You have been seized by the news of Mike Waltz's departure. What are your thoughts?
Well, it sounds like it's a game of dominoes in a way. You start off with someone like Waltz, maybe in the domino standing up. Maybe it's Hegseth. You have Witkoff in there, and so you topple one, and you topple another, and so my thinking is, so what happens now? If Waltz is out, who's going to take his place? The rumor is it's Steve Witkoff. Are they moving Steve Witkoff into the old Waltz position to get him out of the negotiations because he hasn't done such a great job? Is that because none of his talks really have resulted in much? And so suddenly you have the president thinking that maybe I'm being played by the Russians, and of course the person setting that up is Steve Witkoff. So maybe you move Witkoff. You don't fire him. Maybe you move him into the Waltz position because he's a friend. He's a friend of the president's, and he doesn't want to kick him out the door. So Waltz gets the heave-ho. Witkoff comes in and takes his place. And then who's going to take Witkoff's place as the negotiator, the buddy of Putin? It's very interesting. We're just all on tenterhooks here.
Yeah, interesting. The word interesting doing an awful lot of work in that sentence. Before we move on to what may or may not turn out to be some sort of domino collapse, and I imagine Donald Trump would not be very keen to see anything of the sort happen. Clearly, you're nodding. Of course, that's true. Let's just look at what just has happened or is just happening now. The National Security Advisor, the Signalgate leak of military plans on a messaging app on social media. What an awful, awful blunder that was. But we're also talking about a National Security Advisor in a security setup there, which is seen to be in disarray. What have you been picking up about the nature of the security apparatus around Waltz?
Well, it's around Waltz, but it's around Hegseth, too. I mean, he's a domino as well, somewhere in this lineup. And so there is disarray. There's and that's the thing we understand that Trump didn't want to have in this second term. He had a lot of turmoil in his first term. He lost a lot of national security advisors. That was and he felt that that was a sign of his own failure. Or, well, he's never a failure. That was a problematic sign that he didn't want to have the second time around. So it is surprising that this early in his administration, out goes a national security advisor. But he's been an outsider. He hasn't been a real MAGA guy. He was really brought in because he had some background in national security. He was in the Pentagon. He had done other things as well. But he wasn't there because he was a true believer. And it sounds like a lot of the faithful around Trump, they were suspicious of him to begin with.
Yes. And there was a lot of whispering after that Signalgate so-called
Yes, the Signalgate, when that went off, the knives came out, and of course, they were told to sheath those knives. Let's give them a shot. And something else has tipped it. I don't know if there was something else that we will learn about later. I don't know if Trump felt he needed to do a shakeup after the 100 days, or if, like I said, if it's the Witkoff moving him and finding a home for him. They got to find a home, and so it's the Waltz home, and Waltz is out to give a slot for Witkoff to fill. I don't know, but that's all part of this domino setup.
Yeah, but look, you couldn't ask for a much more sensitive role at a time like this, with relations between the West and certainly Russia, beyond that China, at an extraordinary, delicate and difficult stage inside the transatlantic alliance. It is being strained almost to breaking point. You need someone there from America's point of view, don't you, who can be relied upon for extreme competence, a cool head, a sure pair of hands is the phrase that we like to use when it comes to British politics. But you're telling us that, maybe once again, the President of the United States is going to be looking for someone who's a MAGA man, who can count off above all else, maybe to the exclusion, Jim, of everything else.
Right. In the old days, you're exactly right. We'd be looking for someone who was a sure set of hands, someone who could handle the crises. But that's not the way Trump operates. He's looking for a loyalist. And like I said, Waltz was never really seen as that loyalist, and something happened so that Waltz needs to move out of the way. And so, in the old days, I'd be expecting a former ambassador or, someone to come in there. And but the thing is,
who'll be advising the president on who to pick?
Wow. Well, that's what's interesting. In the day, you would kind of know who those close advisors were. But with Trump, he has a range of advisors, and not the people that you would think would be talking to him about national security. It could be a CEO. It could be someone at Fox News. It could be anyone who talks to the president and for some reason plants that seed that becomes that replacement. But one thing is, Waltz has never been in these big negotiations with the Russians or others. He's always been behind the scenes. So I think there was a lot of people wondering, so he's dead weight. He's just, what does he do? Well, I guess we're going to find out that he hasn't done enough. And I just think it's going to be Witkoff coming in there.
Well, that will be an interesting and enormously controversial choice. We're going to be watching that. We don't know when that. I don't think we've yet had a formal announcement of Waltz's departure, and we're getting so way far ahead down the track. But it seems to be so solidly sourced. I think we can assume that is what is going on.
Absolutely. It's already appeared in some of the, both in your radio show as in other places that people depend on for their news. And it's something that doesn't surprise anyone. And it's the way Washington does its killing. It floats these things out as rumors before the knife goes in, and so that won't be. We won't have to wait too long for that to happen.
Well, as this story develops, and it is developing now, we will bring you all that you will want to know, all that you will need to know here on Times Radio. Do stick with us here on Drive, live from Washington D.C. Now, Jim Townsend, Pentagon and security veteran. Let's talk about Ukraine, which is still a mighty big story. There's been the deal signed last night on a mineral extraction deal between America and Ukraine. I've been saying earlier on and through the program, this tells you that America's role in the world is fundamentally changed, and this rather underlines all of that. It's no longer about the traditional post-World War II role as defender of the free world, as upholder of the transatlantic alliance. Now, it is strictly business. First of all, is that a fair interpretation? And do you feel that, if that is the case, that America's role as the principal defender of freedom and democracy in the world is now over?
I would say it's diminished. What I would say is that really we're looking at the way Donald Trump does business. This is what he wants to do. This is his approach. So if you think 4 years from now, will we see another American president, Democrat or Republican, who's going to be as transactional as Trump? Or will we get back to something that's at least a little bit recognizable from the old days? Even if it's Republican. I mean, we could. There could be a lot that happens in the next 4 years that really drives the voter to bring in someone.
Some of those transatlantic relationships, the trust, if not gone, it's been so seriously depleted.
And that's the problem, is if we do have in 4 years somebody come in that is more recognizable to us, less transactional, more of the America that we've seen in the past. It can't go back to the way it used to be. It'll be recognizable, but it's that trust that you raised. You don't rebuild that immediately. and I also think that Europe is going to be different too. And that's the most important point to me, is this is Europe's time to break that dependency on the United States.
Yes.
It's Europe's time to get out from under that shadow. And this is UK too. This is a matter of being able to stand on their own feet, and no matter who comes back to the White House, no one will be a supplicant to the United States.
Such an important point. As America changes its thinking, Europe is changing its shape. Now,
Right.
We'll be talking about that on the show too. Jim Townsend, veteran of the Pentagon, thank you so much for joining
My
us,
pleasure.
sharing your experience and your thoughts with us this afternoon.